Sweet.
Activate.
All right, everybody. Welcome to This Pink Cloud. We are a show. We are a show that is all about multiple pathways to recovery. I love how Chad always just is ready to pounce on any misenunciation or pronunciation.
Got to keep you on your toes since you have 10 of them.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Because I only have 5.
That's true.
Yeah. What was your name, though?
Anyway, I am DJ Kelly Reverb. There we go. Be sure, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. So, anyway, sitting in with me, my special needs friend and serial killer sidekick, Chad Lamons, everybody.
Hey, you guys. I'm going by the name Chafe Lemons.
Okay.
Now,
Hey, you
my
do
name's
that.
Chafe Lemons. It says on my name tag I'm a DJ/producer, and I'm an advocate for the word hell yeah.
Well,
I'm
Chad,
a hell yeah advocate. That's what I am.
And crickets.
Yeah. I get that. It's pretty cool, though, dude, to walk around all the time and advocate for words like hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
it's pretty cool.
We're very proud.
I say
of
hell
Chad.
yeah to that.
We are very proud of
See how that works?
Yeah.
It's a good bit.
Oh, wait. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. See? There we go. Positivity.
Right.
Just body positivity right here.
Right. And then in with us again from last week, you might recognize her, the lovely Beth. How are you?
Woo!
I'm good.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, and you're here because you're actually friends. You're actually friends with our next guest on, which is James Maccabee. How are you, James?
I am blessed, sir.
All
James, man. There we
right.
go.
James,
Yeah, dude.
we get the hallelujah music. We are happy to have you here, and it's funny because all of y'all work together. So I feel like I'm at a staff meeting here.
Yeah, you're at a work rally.
Right, I'm at a staff meeting, and hey guys, we got to figure out how to get rid of Chad. Whatever we got to do, just don't tell him.
Yeah.
But we got to figure it out. But anyway, so obviously you're in recovery, so
Yes, sir.
Let's hear the backstory.
All right. My name is James Maccabee. I've been sober since July 26, 2018. I got sober on my birthday.
That's when we go. Welcome, James.
Hey, James.
Glad you're here. Glad you're here, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Keep coming back.
Keep coming back.
Keep coming back.
Yeah, so I was at a meeting the other night. This is how I switched sponsors. I was telling him about my story and stuff, and so he come to me and told me to calm down on it. So my new sponsor told me not to scare the children.
Okay.
They said they're infants, and they just don't understand the darkness that I went through.
Right. Well, let's hear it.
So my story began, it's funny how God humbled me. So he humbled me. He didn't humble me, but he showed me a thing when I was little, and this is how I got sober. And so when I was little, my sister used to put me in a dress all the time.
Okay.
And so I remember I went to the Caddo Rodeo,
Right.
and I was wearing this like 1800s dress.
And this is Caddo Mills.
Caddo Mills, yes,
Right.
sir.
And that's where you grew up.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
y'all were partners in crime, kind of, or adjacent, or
Kind of.
around?
Sort of.
Yeah. Right.
Sort of.
Partners in your own separate crimes.
Luckily, we didn't. Our
Your superpowers didn't unite.
Yeah.
Correct.
right,
During
I
our
gotcha.
addiction, we
Right.
never were.
Never.
Gotcha.
She was always a grade ahead of me.
Ah. Okay.
And so, and I remember everybody looking at me and laughing at me
At the rodeo.
at the
or-
rodeo.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And that was like one of my first traumas.
Ah.
My dad, he was a bad alcoholic. I grew up with, I was started being sexually abused when I was 9 years old. Mm-hmm. It lasted till I was 10. And then it was like, I was the odd kid growing up. Mm-hmm. I had a learning disability. So I have a form of dyslexia to where when I read stuff, it comes in backwards. So people tease me in school a lot. Okay. I remember in the 5th grade, we moved to Iowa Park, and I was the only white kid in that class. And I got picked on a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And we came back, and it's like going through what I went through during that time. I was spiritually broke at a young age. And so I didn't grow up in church. My dad, he was born in 1929. So he was a lot older when he had me.
Right. I was going to say. Yeah.
I'm the youngest of 5. And so my brother, he beat me up a lot. But I've come to the fact that he was probably jealous because I was a mama's boy. So my mom was like my hero.
Right.
And so
now, how much older was your brother?
He was born in 1967. I was born in 1973.
Okay, so 6 years.
Yes, and so my oldest brother, my half brother, he was born in.
Right.
He's at least in his 60s now.
Okay.
Yeah, he was born in early 60s.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, because I think Gina was born in. There's like a 6 years difference between all of us.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so I think my dad was 50 something when I was born, and my mom was 45, 46, I believe.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I was.
So you were an accident.
Yes.
Right.
Very much so.
Yeah,
and so, and it wasn't a happy accident.
Right.
And so I kind of got thrown in there, and I remember like my dad, he worked all the time, and so we didn't do the fishing, the athletic stuff, and he wasn't into all that.
Right. He had already done it.
Yeah.
Four times before you or whatever.
He had 13 brothers and sisters.
Oh, yeah.
So every one of the boys were in the war.
Yeah.
World War I, World War II. So he went in at 16. I did not know much about my dad.
Right.
Didn't know his history, didn't know his past. He wouldn't talk about it. So I didn't know how he was raised. So I guess for me, then I thought it was kind of abuse, mental abuse and stuff, but I don't know how he was raised, and so it's like now that I've been working my program, I can start understanding this stuff. When I got in middle school, and so the things that happened to me, it changed my whole outlook on what physical emotion looked like. And so I used to take that out on all the girls I dated.
Okay.
I was a violent drunk.
Ah, okay.
I started drinking in the 5th grade.
Oh, wow.
I was a full-blown alcoholic when I was a freshman.
Right.
Drank before school, drank after school. And so for me, what I went through, it was like I wasn't sensitive, but I didn't feel manly. And so when I found out that I could drink, it took all that fears away from me. And so that's what I would do. I would drink to make myself more braver around the other people and around my brother.
A little liquid courage.
A little liquid courage.
Right.
Yes. And the little pills and everything else going along with it.
Liquid.
Yeah.
Right.
And so then I played football, and that was probably one of the best times I had, even though I drank. I was arrested 3 times before I was 16.
Okay.
And I was
DUI or fighting
just
or what?
MIPs, yeah. And I got a couple for fighting.
Okay.
Just being stupid. I've wrecked 4 or 5 vehicles. And so then I got my high school girlfriend, and I'm not going to bring this up, but there was some stuff that happened that really traumatized me. And so I remember graduating high school. I was at kind of at a fork in the road. I wanted to be in the military so bad. I wanted to go to the Navy, and I wanted to fight for my country. Okay. I took that test 8 times, and I failed it every time.
Oh, okay. Was it because of the dyslexia?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. I could pass my practice test.
When did you get diagnosed with dyslexia?
A couple of days ago.
Oh. Well, welcome to the club.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Because like I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and you didn't hear about stuff like that.
Sure.
You didn't hear about kids being molested.
Right. And, now, so like, did somebody just recently go, hey, you might be dyslexic?
There's been a few people that has the same issues I do. And then I was telling them about it, and they're like, yeah, you got dyslexia.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it's hard for me to read stuff and get it back because.
Right.
I hate reading. Oh,
sure.
I hate reading.
Right.
Hell yeah, dude. It's just a bunch of words.
It's just a word.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody I have to pay for those words arranged in a way on a piece of paper? Dude, that's crazy.
So I have to.
Hey, they have audiobooks now.
Yeah. So I just have to do everything to learn things.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's kind of ways in football too. I just have to do it, then I learn it.
Right.
Got yelled at a lot. But drinking didn't hurt either.
Right.
Yeah.
That might have been some of my problems because I started drinking at an early age.
Sure.
But yeah, then once I graduated, I went to live with my nephew, and I went to work at a military paint shop. Then when I came back from there, my dad was drinking again. And then that's when I started drinking bad. And so I was going to parties and stuff and noticing my friends that were drinking as much as me were not drunk. I'm like, what is wrong? Something different. They're like, you didn't know? I'm like, what? So that's when the first time I tried methamphetamine.
Ah, okay.
That's when my whole world changed.
Gotcha.
It went to a whole nother level. And with the hate that I had in my heart and the pain that I had, it just took me to a whole nother level of darkness. I worshiped the devil for 27 years.
Oh, wow. So an active Satanist.
Yes, I was an active Satanist.
Ah, okay. All right.
sir.
And did they actually, I mean, like as far as doing that, what does that entail? Is there like a weekly meeting or what? What exactly?
I'd rather not comment.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, no, I just didn't know if it was like a personal relationship or if it was like a,
well, when I got involved with it, I was with some friends, and it was like that's where I belonged because they seek out the helpless, the hopeless, and the lost. And so I got to feed all that hate into something that transferred hate.
Right.
And so the more I did meth and the worse I looked outside is how I felt on the inside. And so when people see me, I had long dreadlocks, I wore pentagram shirts and stuff.
Right.
And so when people would see me, they would like run away from me. I love that.
Right.
That way I didn't.
Right. Then that way I didn't have to deal with it.
I didn't have to have nobody love me. I didn't have to love nobody else. I didn't have to have nobody care about me.
Ah,
Yeah, I remember seeing him before walking down the street and wanting to stop and just get in the car.
Right.
Just get in the car. But I can remember that was not the James I knew, and I was scared to let him in my vehicle.
Right.
Never would I have thought that.
I was evil.
Yeah.
I was.
Okay.
I would done a lot of bad things.
Right.
So the first time I went to treatment, this is a funny story. So I remember.
How old are you?
I was 93, so I was 19.
Okay.
It's like you're fucking 93 years old.
I was 93 years old.
Fucking time traveler, dude.
Well, Satan allows you.
It does. I can,
You don't age in Satanism.
Yeah.
So like, was there any cause that made you go to rehab the first time?
Yes.
I mean, did you want to,
No.
or was it?
Oh, hell no.
It was a decision made for you.
It was made by my parents, actually. So
All right.
I remember I was tweaking out, and I flushed everything down the toilet.
Right.
Everything. Stopped the toilet up. Couldn't get it unstopped. So my dad had to call the plumber the next day and do the clean out. All my stuff was shoved off in that clean out.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything, syringe, all of it.
Right.
And he's like, what is this? And I'm like, I'm a junkie. Don't beat me up. Don't kick me out.
All right.
So I went to treatment. And so that's where the have to or want to comes in. Like we tell all the patients and stuff, the want to and have to or get to. I had to go, and I did not learn one single thing.
Right.
Didn't learn nothing. So I get out, and then.
Well, I also say it's because like you weren't there. You didn't want it.
I didn't want it. I didn't want it at all.
Yeah,
Not one bit. And the place that I went to was very obsolete. It's in Greenville where I'm from, and so they were just buildings in a pasture.
Right.
Had no AC, had no TV, no phones. It was just the food was awful.
Right.
There was people mixed with TDC and regular people, and it was just kind of a money trap. Didn't teach us nothing. Nothing like the treatment center we work at. There's no BHTs, no doctors, no nurses. It was kind of fend for yourself, kind of sink or swim kind of deal.
Right. We're just not doing drugs here, and that's our program.
Yeah, but they were.
Right.
They were.
Sure,
There was more drugs in there than was out. Yeah. And so when I got out, 2 weeks later, I go right back out in the world again. I tried doing the meetings and getting a sponsor. I just didn't want it. Right. And going to NA for me was just like a fest hole for drug addicts. Everybody was high. Everybody was, talking to this person, that person. I just couldn't stay sober. And so I started working with my dad at the tire shop, and I got right back in it deep again. So I was selling drugs out of the tire shop. Then I started breaking into houses, writing hot checks. And so my the bank that we did our banking at knew me. So I was just going to this 80-year-old lady.
Yeah.
And she cashed like $12,000 worth of checks.
Right.
And so, we're coming back from Rockwall, so I get busted. It was me and 3 other people. And so I go to jail. I'm in there for a month. They wouldn't get me out. So I'm looking at 5 to 10 years for Fed time for writing hot checks. They dropped the drug charge because the 15-year-old took the charge for it.
Okay.
And so I was in there for 8 months. I got out. I was doing good. Was paying the money back. I didn't have to go to jail. I was paying the money back. My dad pulled some strings. Then that's when I met my first wife.
Okay.
And so we got together. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't smoking weed. I wasn't doing nothing. I met her. She was smoking weed.
Right.
I started smoking weed. 2 weeks later, I was at the dope house.
Right.
It didn't take me but 2 weeks. And that's the cliche of when you get sober, it's going out and not testing the theory, not testing your addiction. Because if you test it, you're going to fail.
Right.
Because no matter if it's meth, heroin, I was a heroin addict too.
Sure.
And so no matter which one you do, you can't replace it with another.
Right. Yeah. I always say, people always do the old trading addiction.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, dude.
So
I mean, basically, all you're really trying to do is escape how you feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I even tried being addicted to everything.
Yeah.
I would do it all at once,
Right.
but it was still, the pain was there, the hurt was there,
Right.
the lostness was there. Then we had 3 kids, and it was, you would think that having my firstborn son would change me, but right before he was born, I was in the bathroom doing a shot. Couldn't even hold my firstborn son the first time.
Yeah.
It was pretty awful, and it just, what I went through, it was hard for me to be close to my kids. That was always a fear in the back of my head, knowing I would not do nothing, but there was always that thought of, okay, 90% of the people that go through this, they take it, they do it a different way. I never did process it.
Yeah.
And so after having my 3 kids, she started cheating on me a lot, and then she ran off with my best friend.
Okay.
So, and then
not so much of a best friend.
No, he wasn't.
Right.
He wasn't. The first time I tried to commit suicide, I was in the garage. I locked myself in the truck, had it running. I was in there for 7 hours and 30 minutes. Pronounced dead on the scene.
Okay.
But I remember looking up and seeing like this dark light, like a vortex. And when I fell, it was just like a suction, but I could literally feel the flesh being ripped off my body. I could smell the flesh being ripped off my body. And it seemed like eternity.
Right.
But there's a saying in the Bible about what's the 3 brothers?
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yes. So as soon as I was going to hit the pit, something grabbed me and set me to the side and just kind of patted me like a child. You think that would have changed me? It didn't.
Right.
I kept doing what I was doing.
Right.
I remember being in the
And you're an active Satanist the whole time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
But God still had my back. He was still trying to let me know that there's still saving grace for me. I just didn't have my eyes open to see it because I had so much hate and anger in my body and my soul. It was just nothing there. And
well, it kind of sounds like you when you grew up and how you started off, you weren't really around a lot of love and a lot of positive reinforcement.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
Cool thing is, when I was in 6th and 7th grade, I met my best friend, Jeff Pattison. I remember they moved from Mesquite, and so I started going over. They lived right down the street, so I started going over there. That's the first time I was introduced to church. That was the first time I was introduced to the love of what real love is. And I remember it was on a Sunday morning, fixing to eat breakfast. His dad was a train engineer. And so he walked in. So his dad is like 6'8", like 280 pounds. Big man, big, deep voice.
Sure.
And I'm looking up, and I'm like, oh, my God.
Right.
And so we sit down to eat, and they have a full spread on their kitchen table. That's something that was new to me.
Right.
And so I go to eat, and he goes, hey, boy, we pray in my house.
Right.
what is that?
Right.
Didn't know what praying was.
Wow.
I remember my mom doing the down and lay me down to sleep with me, but it never made sense.
Right.
You know, it was just like, that's probably one of the things I remember about my mom.
That's probably one of the creepiest prayers out there.
Yeah, it is.
That's in every horror movie.
Yeah, it's in like horror movies for sure.
Yeah,
Well, my whole life was a horror movie.
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much.
yeah.
And so, where's that?
You had 3 kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was crazy because her dad ended up being my drug dealer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy.
Right.
But when she moved to Oklahoma, she took my kids and everything that she took everything that I had. And she was the top. She had everything nice. So I had a brand new house. I had a brand new car. I had everything that was new. Still working with my dad, trying to sell drugs, trying to make ends meet. She maxed out all my credit cards.
Right.
All my car got repoed. The house got repoed.
Right.
And then when she took off, it was just like there was nothing left for me.
Right.
And that's when my addiction just went to
An obsession.
Right.
You know, it was deception. And so I was addicted to being sick.
Okay.
If you could say I had so many pity pots. I had them buried. I had my pity pots buried in my yard like bodies.
Right.
You know, and it was just once I would hurt this person just so they would get mad to give me a reason to use. I would do this to this person, just get mad so I get a reason to use. You know, and then my mom got sick. She got Alzheimer's, and my mom was my hero. She was the strongest person I ever knew.
Yeah.
And so watching her from going the strongest person I knew to a 2-year-old infant, you would think that would have done something to me.
Sure.
It didn't.
Right.
Never shedded a tear. Never shedded a tear.
Wow.
So I watched that happen. She passed away at home. We kept her at home.
Well, it seems like probably by that point you were pretty good at shutting it down.
I was.
Yeah.
I had nothing.
Just like, yeah.
There
You
was
were emotionally vacant.
way vacant. I was emotionally and spiritually bankrupt,
Right.
as you would say.
Right.
And so there was nothing there. And then I used that as being manipulative with my dad to stay at the house and to still keep getting high and to do my drugs and cook my drugs and everything at the house, you know, and I would use his pain and his sorrow as an scapegoat to feed my addiction because he didn't want to hear me gripe. He didn't want to hear me yell. And so he would just do what you want.
Right.
You know, so I always had a place to stay, and I knew that no matter what I did, where I went.
Right. And your dad was using at the same time?
Well,
or?
he was at that time when my mom got sick, he was not drinking.
Okay.
He quit. But he was 70 years old then.
Yeah.
So she passed away on her 51st wedding anniversary.
Right.
And so, but we still, man, we were like, we argued and just butted heads. Ever since I was a kid, we just butted heads.
Yeah.
And my brother was still living there. My brother was on it too.
And that was your brother that beat you up as a kid?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we still fought all the time.
Right.
And then my dad, he got sick. He got pneumonia. And so with him, he's had 2 heart attacks. He's had 2 open heart surgeries. He had a quadruple bypass. He had prostate cancer. He had all this other stuff going on. But still was the toughest man I ever knew in my life.
Right.
Man, that man was tough.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Yeah. And so he got sick, and I remember coming out of my bedroom, and I looked, and he was wobbling like a giraffe. And I said, "Are you okay?" He said, "I don't know. I feel weird." So my dad, he passed away in my arms in the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
He had a stroke.
Yeah.
It was crazy because 3 days before that, I walked in the living room, and I looked at him and said, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And he's like, I just feel weird."
Yeah.
And there was nothing there, you know. Then the next day, he was fine. He bought pizza.
Right.
Doing good, and then he passed away the next night or next morning.
Right.
And
it's always having, as I know from personal experience, having somebody die on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's pretty rough.
And the look in his face was just like,
yeah,
it was. Oh, it's just crazy. Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can't get that look on my face.
Yeah.
But he had a rent house in that house, so this is how I got sober. So when they sold both houses, I thought I was going to get a chunk of change.
Right.
So they sold the one house for $50,000 and the other one for $45,000.
Okay.
So I was supposed to got like $15,000 or $20,000. I turned my back on my kids. 17 years I didn't pay no child support.
Right.
I never talked to them. I chose drugs over everything. And so...
Now, were your kids growing up in Oklahoma with their mom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So my oldest son, he moved out at 15. And then my other son, they just... Because she was strung out, too. I introduced her to that stuff. And so, yeah.
Well, but she was also introduced you to weed.
She did.
You know, so.
She did. But I could have said no.
Right.
I could have said no.
So could she.
Yeah, she could have. But she didn't know she didn't know my past at the time.
Right.
She didn't know I just got out of jail or
sure.
all this kind of stuff. And so she got everything I was supposed to get. And so then whenever we had to move out of the houses, I had nowhere to go. And so I done burnt every bridge. I done burnt every tree to build the bridge. And I done dried out every seed to grow the trees to build the bridge.
Right.
That's genius.
Yeah.
So I pretty much lived my life with a blowtorch because I burned everything to the ground.
Sure.
Just to see if it would grow back. And if I ever see anything even distinctly positive, I'd burn it to the ground too.
Right.
Because that's how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt like I've been burnt my whole life.
Yeah. Well, here, let's take a pause right there. Throw to commercial. We've got thispinklawyer.com. If you go to thispinklawyer.com, it will take you to Lone Star Injury Attorneys.
If the internet's on.
It is... okay, dude. I mean, why do you do that every time?
I love it, dude.
It's stupid because you're actually stepping on what
Max
he
the
pays
Axe,
for.
dude.
Yeah.
No, Max the Axe.
But thispinklawyer.com will take you to Lone Star Injury Attorneys. And he is a personal injury attorney.
And he does fantastic work in Texas and in California.
There you go.
And his name is Max the Axe.
Exactly. And then your mom has a book out.
Little Sheila.
Yeah, exactly.
What's it called?
It's called 2calls.org.
Phone call as a parent that your son has been hit by a car and is being life flighted.
2 hours before we got the call, Chad had called me to tell me it was the best day of his life. And then I get another call, and a stranger had found him, and they were care flighting him to a trauma unit, and that he would start praying for our family that we needed to hurry.
You know, when you wake up on the operating table and they're like, we're going to cut off both your legs. And then I wake up and then one's gone, the other one's in an external rod system. It's just not good. The real kicker is that I've had like all of these scars all over my arms, and that's all from complications resulting from drug abuse.
I never thought about giving up on him. Never. This is my son, and I know he's going to be okay. You cannot just have help for the addict. You have to seek out professional help. The whole family has been affected.
And I just want to make that very clear to anybody who's out there listening, that if I can do this thing as much as I've been through, man, there's a lot of wiggle room for people before they get to that point where they can do it too.
All right, yeah. And the book is called Two Calls. If you go to 2calls.org, you can actually purchase the book. And then also, you and your mom do speaking and stuff.
No, we do speaking engagements. Why would you call it something stupid like speaking stuff?
Because that's what you said in the commercial.
I've never ever said that in my entire life.
Yeah.
No, you just made that up. That's really dumb. But yeah, me and Lil Sheila, shout out Lil Sheila. Hold on.
Y'all just did one, right?
Yes. There we go, Lil Sheila. Yeah, we just did one, and it was really good. She did a reading from it. We had a lot of really good conversations with people afterward.
Right. And your mom wrote the book because she wanted to help families.
She wants to help families realize that there are resources available and there is hope for that. And
for
she wants
stupidity.
Shut up.
But yeah, y'all are available for speaking.
Yeah, man, we do all sorts of stuff.
Speaking stuff.
Yeah.
And then we also have a new song out. It's called Tonight You're All Right. And streaming on all.
Sorry, what's it called?
Tonight I'm All Right.
You said you're all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
You said...
All right, and that is streaming on all major platforms. Actually, if you go to Spotify, there's a playlist called This is Kelly Reverb, and it has all our stuff on it.
Yep.
correct?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, smart ass?
Dude, why would you look at me?
Why would
I'm
you
just-
look at me?
Dude, I'm just over
innocent.
here. I'm just
I'm
over here
innocent.
just being
I'm
a good
Chad.
guy, being
I'm
a good
innocent.
camera guy, being a good tech guy.
Right.
And
Just
you're
being
just
a good
you're being
human-
so mean, dude. Just so
You're just
rude
a
to
great
me.
human being.
All the time, dude.
Yeah.
Piece
Anyway,
of shit.
so where were we? Where were we?
All right.
We were at the really crazy stuff.
Getting there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right before you got sober and you just sold the house.
Just sold the
Right.
house.
Right.
Yeah, and so for my story part, I have overdosed on heroin and cocaine. I have flatlined 4 times in my life and 3 or 4 suicide attempts. And every time I've had that person, had God with me. And so, yeah, this time after they sold the house, I'm homeless. I'm living in the woods. I was out there for about 3 weeks. And
Right.
it was bad. I had no clothes. I had no shirt. I had these little wind shorts on. And so this is how God humbled me. And so I remember I had a pit bull. Had him since he was a baby. And I believe my mom lived longest as she did is because of that pit bull dog. Because he followed her everywhere.
Right.
And my dad had him spoiled. So it was like that was the only thing I had left out of everything was that dog. So I remember walking to the Brookshire's parking lot, which was probably a 10-mile trek. Now I have no shirt, these little wind shorts, 2 different pairs of shoes on, no socks. It's hot, it's muggy, middle of summertime in Texas. So I remember being at the parking lot at the Brookshire's, and me and my dog sitting there, and I'm just looking, and this little girl walked by. She was probably 9 years old. And when she walked by, there was a peace, a comfort when she walked by that I've never felt before in my life. There was a presence about that girl that it was like she was glowing. It scared me.
Okay.
A tear fell down my face. And so when they walked back out, she gave me a bag of dog food and a bottle of water. And she touched my hand on my shoulder. She goes, "I'm praying for you, sir, and I hope you find God." And it was like she reached into my soul and took my heart out. There was something I've never, even through all the devil worshiping stuff, all the scary stuff I've seen, all of the bad crap I've seen, that presence was so scary. And so when I flatlined and went to the pit, I felt that same presence whenever that thing took me out.
Right.
And so I get up, and my dog's laying on his back, and this guy drives up and goes, "Hey, man, are you okay?" And I'm I had tears just flowing. First time I've cried in 30 years.
Right.
And so I said, "I'm homeless. I don't know how I got here. I just don't know what to do." And he tried to give me $20, and it's like, okay, this is a kind of a turning point for me. So I said, "Nope, I don't want no money from you. I would go buy drugs with it."
Right.
And so he goes and buys me a hamburger. I eat it. I get up, and it's pouring rain, and I'm walking down the street. And I remember this guy yells he come out of his house and said, "Hey, do you need a shirt?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's kind of chilly with the rain."
Right.
So this dude was 6'8", about 350 pounds.
Right. So it was a nice dress that
Yes.
showed up. Right.
Yes. And so when I put that on, it was a flashback to when I was a kid.
From when you
Yeah.
were a kid. Okay. Yeah. All right.
And God said, "Here, I'm going to humble you for a few days."
Right. We're going to dress you up
Yeah.
like a girl.
And so I was getting yelled at,
Right.
whistled at. They even had one guy drive by and splash water on me, you know. And so for 3 days, I finally go back out in the woods. And so I go to the movie theater, and
I would have just tied it up in like one of those little knots on the side. Hey, sailor.
I should have,
Right.
but I don't think it would have. It come
Right.
out of my ankle. It was so
Sure.
long. It was huge. It was
It was
huge.
like a moo-moo.
And it was bright red
Right.
Hell yeah.
with the puffy sleeves. It had the collar on it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was pretty. It didn't match my shoes none.
Right.
And they had no socks, so I couldn't. Yeah, so it was pretty traumatizing. And so then I finally get a hold of my brother's girlfriend. She comes, gets my dog, and so that was the last time I seen my dog. And so I'm at the point of trying to commit suicide again. And so where Glen Oaks is, there's a bridge where people have jumped off before. And so I'm sitting there, and it just starts raining, and a lightning bolt hits this tree, and I hit the ground, and then I felt that presence again. And it was like something grabbed me around the throat and said, "Here, take this seed and have faith in me." And when it did, it was like It was like a father disciplining their son. Mm-hmm. You know, it was so just overwhelming, and so it scared the piss out of me. Mm-hmm. And so when I get up, I heard it again, and I'm like, okay, that's no voice I've ever heard in my head, and I've heard a lot of voices in my head.
Right.
And so that was one I've never heard before. And so that presence pushed me across the highway and took me to a church. Mm-hmm. And there's these two old ladies in there. And it's 2:00 in the afternoon, and what they're doing at the church, I have no idea.
Right.
And so they sent me to Glen Oaks again. And so when I go there, I go to this place called Serenity House. I'm there for 8 days in a detox. Mm-hmm. Longest I've been sober in probably 30 years, except for being in jail and rehabs and stuff.
Right.
And so I remember the Spanish guy, and it was crazy because it was like God put all these drug addicts and homeless people in an ark. Mm-hmm. We had black guys, we had Texas Syndicate, we had every gang member under one roof. Mm-hmm. But we all functioned as one family.
Right.
But I remember the first day I was there, I was sitting there, I was scared to death. I mean, I was way out of my comfort zone. It's in Pleasant Grove, Texas. Mm-hmm. It's called Crusaders, Texas. Shout out to Crusaders.
All right.
Shout out Crusaders.
Saved my life, honestly. That place.
And how long ago was this?
It was in 2018.
Okay.
Yep. This is when I got sober. Mm-hmm. And so this place is it's a nonprofit organization. Mm-hmm. It's a work to stay program. Mm-hmm. So you have to work to stay there.
Right.
They do do make readies on the apartments the guy owns there.
Right.
And then they do concession stands, work for different cowboy games and basketball games and stuff like that.
Right.
But I remember the first night I'm there, the Spanish guy comes up to me. He goes, "You want to get high?"
Oh.
And he has a big ball of meth.
Right.
Then this other guy comes up, has a big deal of heroin.
Yeah.
Has a bunch of cows. Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking to myself, but I hear that voice again, hate to see that faith in me. Mm-hmm. And I crawled up in that bed, and there's like 25 people in this one house. Mm-hmm. And I crawled up in a fetal position, and I cried myself to sleep again.
Right.
But that place saved my life. I remember like 2 days later, calling him Dr. Lee. He was a dentist, but he would do our 12-step work with us and do our devotionals. Mm-hmm. And he come to me, he goes, "You know what you remind me of?" I said, "No, sir." He goes, "You believe in God?" I said, "No." He goes, "You remind me of a mustard seed." Mm-hmm. I said, "What's that?" He goes, "It's the tiniest seed in the world that grows through mountains."
Right.
And he said, "You know what you need to grow that?" I said, "Sun and water." He said, "No, you just need faith." Mm-hmm. You got to have enough faith in God that you're going to stay sober.
Right.
And man, that man changed my life.
Right.
The Bible that's at the treatment center, the Recovery Bible, that's the Bible he gave me.
Ah.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the one he gave me when I was there because I couldn't, my reading was, because I told him I couldn't read very well. So he got me the big print book, and it put the 12-step program along with the God stuff because I didn't believe in God. I did not want to do all that.
Right. Right. No, I hear you. So, no, we just had
Dr. Lee popped in for a second.
Appearance. Yeah. It's funny. He's right.
So that was him that you're talking about?
Right.
No, it's a different Dr. Lee. This is a short version. Yeah, he was actually.
I was like, is this all connected?
Yeah, dude, we just got incepted.
Right.
He was actually a dentist.
Okay.
And so nobody knew I was in a sober living house. Mm-hmm. And about a month later, I ended up getting one of the little government phones for my food stamps. Mm-hmm. So I get on there, and then Jeff Pattison reached out to me. Mm-hmm. And so I had warrants for my arrest. I owed $1,500 from the last time I was in jail for driving a valid driver license. Mm-hmm. And so let me see what we can do. He knew I was trying to get sober. Mm-hmm. And he never gave up. He always prayed for me. Mm-hmm. And so he opened up a PayPal account, and every person that I hurt, lied to, cheated on, fought, they all pitched in to pay all that off.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of one of the first confirmations that things was working in my life. Mm-hmm. You know, and I went 6 years without working a program. And so it was kind of a dry drunk.
Right.
I kind of liked ate stale potato chips for 6 years.
Right.
You know, I found God and stayed sober, but there was just still something missing. Mm-hmm. And so a good friend of mine kept hounding me about getting a sponsor.
Right.
Two good people kept hounding me about getting a sponsor.
Right.
But one was very insistent. Uh-huh. And so, I got one. And I was going to the groups in McKinney, but it was just so far for me to drive.
Right.
And then before that, I came back after I got the sober living house. Mm-hmm. I come back to the homeless shelter in Greenville. Mm-hmm. And so I remember I was kind of at an impasse at the sober living house. I was going to have to walk 2 miles to the DART bus, drive downtown, and let me tell you, I don't like downtown Dallas.
Right.
I don't. This is one of my worst triggers.
Okay.
When I found out I was going to Dallas this time, I was like, shoot.
Right.
Yeah. And so we come back to Greenville, paid off my fines, and we go to the homeless shelter, the Salvation Army. Mm-hmm. That place saved the second part of my life.
Right.
I was there for 4 months.
Shout out Salvation Army.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's closed now because somebody embezzled all the money, but
Well, there we go.
Oh, well, shout out old Salvation Army.
Right.
but the guy Larry, he's passed away now. He's a really good man. His family's good. And so and I started working at the Walmart pushing buggies. I was there for 4 years, and then I met my wife now, which has just shout out to Dina Maccabee. I love you, babe.
Shout out
Right.
Dana Maccabee. We'll give you an air horn.
Right.
She has changed my life. I believed in God, but it was just kind of a lukewarm relationship. I knew I was saved and I knew about God, but I didn't really understand the stuff that I understand now.
Right.
Especially with working the steps.
Yeah.
Whenever I got my first sponsor, I did my steps with him, did my 4-step, and so I had to put a bunch of stuff on there that I haven't shared today, but there's a lot on there.
Right.
And
Well, let's hear it. No. I'm just
But he helped me get through the hard stuff.
Uh-huh.
But like I was saying, I was at a meeting one night and I was sharing, and it was like I scared the piss out of him because I was talking about my suicide attempts and me dying and going to hell and something there picking me up. And
Yeah.
so after the meeting, he come to me and said, "Hey, man, we might not want to share about stuff like that, you know." And it's crazy because,
I'd be like, yeah.
being where we work at, we share our stories with. I don't judge nobody. We share our stories with everybody.
Right.
And so I don't. It's not that I'm trying to save everybody. I just want to reach at least one person. I don't care what addiction or disease they have.
Right.
And that's just the way I live. That's the way I am. And
I got to say, I mean, like I've been doing this show for a while. So to me, I find it fascinating. You are the first active practicing Satanist that we've had on the show. And I mean, it's not like everybody advertises that. But I mean, and it was just like one of those things that's like, I have questions.
I still got to get ink covered up for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how did that even happen? How did that even, like where?
Your clip.
Right.
Plug it in further.
There we go.
Yeah. Man.
Okay. But yeah, how did that even happen? How did you even get introduced to something like that out in the sticks?
So I've always been a dark person. I've literally have always been the one that would run into the dark room. I would watch The Exorcist by myself.
Right.
Watched the first time by myself when I was 5.
Oh, that scared the piss out of me when I was a kid.
It didn't me.
Yeah.
And I was always fascinated with
The dark arts.
dark arts, witchcraft, and I hated somebody telling me what I had to believe in. And so I had to learn that for myself.
Right. Gotcha.
And so, and I've always noticed that in my addiction that whenever I was being with somebody or doing drugs with somebody, there was always somebody different in the room that did something different. And so like when I was with the people drinking, I noticed that those people were different, so I started hanging out with them. And so when I was smoking it and doing it that way, then I noticed this group of guys were back over there acting different.
Right.
And I'm always wanting to do the stuff that seems the weirdest.
Right.
I'm like, why are you looking out the blinds on your tippy toes and this guy isn't?
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
and
I want to be on my tippy toes looking out the blinds.
yeah. And so this guy's listening to one kind of music, and this guy over here is listening to this freaking just heaviest freaking stuff that's just, oh my God, that would piss my parents off.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I started hanging out with them, and I remember there were 6 of us. I mean, we went to the woods, and there was this house. It's right off in I don't know how they got this house here. And so we were really high.
Yeah.
I've been up for days. And so we go in there, and I thought I was smoking marijuana, but actually the paper was soaked in embalming fluid.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the first time I seen the devil.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And it was just when I walked into the house, there was pentagrams. you know, I've always listened to the metal music and stuff like that and was
Right.
fascinated with it. But when
Sure.
I walked in there, it was like
Took on a whole different meaning.
and it was just the fear that I had when I walked in that house and the evil that I felt. That's what I wanted people to feel when they seen me.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like almost like you hated yourself so much and that you wanted
Yeah.
people to hate you
Yes.
just as much as you hated
And,
yourself.
and it was like when I went in that house, it was like after I did that, it was like there was probably 30 people in the house and everybody disappeared.
right?
And I remember the house had a bunch of rooms in it. Mm-hmm. And so there was this one room that was at the very top, and I went up the stairs. And so when I went into the house, the room, there was a man standing there. He had like a cloak over his face. And when he took the cloak down, he had like a baby's face. And then when he put his head down and brought it back up, he had an old man's face.
Now, is this something you're hallucinating?
I
or-
do not know.
Yeah. Is this the embalming?
It seemed real.
Is this the embalming?
Seemed real.
It seemed real. It
Right,
seemed so
sure.
real. And I still have nightmares over it.
Yeah.
But it seems so real.
Right.
But yeah, I was there for like 2 or 3 months, and it was just like
That scares the shit out of me. I want to be a part of this.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
it was just that's who I was. I lived it. I
You
breathed
found
it.
your
Yeah.
identity
Yes.
and
Yeah,
in the darkness.
and nobody had to tell me to do that. I wanted to do that.
right.
Yeah.
I was the type of person when you told me to do something, I would just tell you to kiss my butt.
Sure.
Invincibility.
Invincibility.
Right.
And I felt invincible when I was with them.
Right.
Because you see a bunch of guys walking into a Walmart with pentagrams and dreadlocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You
But it
part
was-
the fucking Red Seas real quick.
Dude, but it was
Sure.
so odd. Every time I'd go to Walmart at 2 o'clock in the morning, back before we had to shut it down at 2 o'clock,
Yeah, no shout out to Walmart
Yeah.
for shutting down at 10 p.m. now.
I would always run into a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
Every time. They're like, do you believe in God?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so what was it that, I mean, you know, like, I mean, you had talked about several instances, like as far as God working in your life. But what was it that, you know, that was the
That
one
flipped
that
the script.
Yeah.
The main.
So I was at my point of desperation.
Uh-huh.
I knew that everything that I thought was real and I thought I believed in was still a lie because I was still in the same situations I was always at. I was still hurt. I was still depressed. I still wanted to commit suicide. And all I wanted was love and affection.
Yeah.
That's what I really wanted.
Right.
But I was scared of it because the love and affection I got
Yeah.
was bad.
Yeah, sure.
And so I just wanted to push everybody away. And so, yeah, that's what I did. And just when I did the meth, it took me to another realm.
Right.
And so my addiction was more than just a meth addiction. It was a spiritual addiction because the more that I put my hard work into the devil worshiping stuff, it was like I didn't have to cry for my mom.
Yeah.
I didn't have to cry for my dad being sad.
Right.
I didn't have to cry for turning my back on my kids. I didn't have to cry for destroying my ex-wife's life.
Right.
I didn't have to cry for all this bullcrap that I caused for myself.
Sure.
And so that's the path I took. But I realize now that working these steps and working this stuff and getting closer to God, that's the path God put me on.
Yeah.
And I would do it again and again. All the pain, all the hurt, all the twistedness, all the chaos. If I can just save one person in my lifetime,
Right.
Yeah.
I would do it all over again.
I hear you.
You know, and like whenever it was crazy when I went to that meeting after I talked to the first sponsor, when he kind of scolded me a little bit, my new sponsor went to him and said, "Hey, no."
Right. We got to get this shit out, dude.
He said,
this is the place to do it.
He said, "Let me have him," and
Right.
then because I know where he's been,
Right.
and it was like even though I could have kept going to the miracle group, but I believe that God put me in that specific group for that specific reason.
Right.
You know, and He has put a fire under my butt that just spiritually, emotion. Just and
I got a question. So, like, are you doing like any type of therapy for, I mean, because it sounds like you got a fucking shit ton of baggage.
Yes.
Right?
So I was doing EMDR therapy.
Okay.
Hell
EMDR.
yeah, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
We just had on a girl that actually is a therapist
Yes.
that does that.
Yeah.
Have you found it effective?
It made my nightmares way worse.
Okay.
And
All
so
right.
I have 2 different nightmares. I have
Right.
trauma nightmares.
Right.
So I have trauma nightmares from my abuse.
Sure.
And so when I don't want to go into detail, but
Yeah. We get it.
yeah, but there was something involved a mirror and a reflection. And so I would always find myself looking at the reflection,
Okay.
and I would see this white face, and it would just, I've had that nightmare ever since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then after the satanic stuff, it was like I would see that face, but it would be on a body, and it would always follow me.
Yeah.
And so it was always at that house, and it was always when I opened that certain door.
Okay.
I actually had one 2 nights ago,
Right.
and they're bad. I kicked my dog out of the bed.
Right.
My wife wakes up screaming and hollering, won't know if I'm okay.
Well, have you just tried regular therapy, as well?
Yeah.
And then,
The EMDR helped. It's just
okay.
I couldn't afford it.
Yeah, sure.
And so I'm trying to, because the lady I was going to, she went to a private practice, so it was like $140 an hour. I can't afford that.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm still fixing to look into it. I'm trying to see if my insurance will cover some sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the most part, since I started these steps and did my 4th step, I think was a miracle in itself. My nightmares have decreased
Right.
a lot.
Right.
And since I've been able to do this and get closer to God, it's like there's no chance of me backsliding.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like a lot of times before I would have the thought of drinking a drink, knowing where it would take me.
Right.
But now I don't have them thoughts no more since I've been doing the steps. And now I'm doing my amends. I'm doing my 9th step or my 8th step. And so I'm working on my amends. And that's a cool thing too, because I had to reach out to one of my ex-girlfriends, and she had an abortion, and I used that growing up as an excuse to drink and do drugs and cheat.
Right.
I use that for my own selfish purposes. And so when I made this amend, I texted her and said, "Hey, I'd like to meet with you and talk to you." I told her I was working my steps and I'm doing my amends, and I would like to talk to her and just, make an amends to her for what I done.
Right.
And so my wife was really upset about it because it is an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
So she was like, "Oh my God, what's going to happen to this, that, and another?"
Right.
And so 3 days later, I'm getting in my head like, "Oh my God, she's not going to text me back." So she finally texts me. She goes, "How about me and my husband meet you?"
Right.
And so God kind of answered a prayer right then, because I prayed about it the night before. And he answered it. He fixed the whole solution of my wife, her husband, and everything. So we all met, and she told me she forgave me a long time ago.
Right.
And I'm like, I worried about this that whole time.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And that there's a kid in heaven dancing around that I get to see
Yeah.
as long as I'm doing right and staying close to God.
Yeah.
And that kind of took another weight off my shoulders.
Right.
But yeah, it's just I pray and meditate a lot, and God has just blessed me. When I got the job at the Meadows, my wife's mom was sick with cancer. I was working at Walmart, and so if y'all know what Walmart's like, everybody's drinking and everybody's doing drugs that work there.
I did not know that, but now I did.
A lot of times.
Now hold on.
Shout out to Walmart.
Shout out to Walmart.
Now that explains it a lot. That explains a lot, dude. It explains a lot. All right.
And so for me, even though I wasn't working the steps, at the time I was doing a lot of the Facebook groups for recovery.
Sure.
And so because when I got sober, COVID hit.
Right.
They shut down everything in Greenville.
Right.
And right now there's only 2 Celebrate Recoveries in the tradition group. That's all they have in Greenville.
Right.
That's it. They need more. They need to find something else. Somebody needs to open up another group there.
Right.
But
you. That guy.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't want to scare the children.
Right. Funny.
But yeah, and just, man, he's just blessed me.
Well, and it sounds like it's all still very active and still very fresh and still a work in progress.
Oh, yes, of course.
So yeah, man. I mean, I wish you luck, and I wish you luck with dealing with all that baggage, because it sounds like it's a lot of really, really heavy stuff.
Motherfucker was out there, dude.
Yeah.
I told you James was out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So-
it's the coolest thing though, because whenever he tells like his stuff whenever we're at work, dude, like these guys and women come out and they're just like fucking holy shit.
Right.
Well,
You know?
sometimes you have to scare the children.
Yeah, dude.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, and it's amazing though, because like I don't know, you hear him talk and you hear all this stuff, and then you hear what he's been through. Yeah, it makes sense, dude, to be at peace and wanting to help other people when you've been through something like that.
Right.
So many
Well,
things
I think
like that.
it helps other people too
Yeah.
when they hear that, when they've been through things they've been through that they think are unspeakable,
Right.
Yeah.
unfathomable, and
Yeah.
humiliating. Not to compare, but to hear
Right.
someone else and go, oh, God, if they went through that,
Yeah.
I can surely,
Yeah.
Right.
get to where I need to be.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
haven't even done half of what they've
Oh,
done.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the cool thing is, out of all the patients, at least 80% of us all have something in common,
Yeah.
other than being sick.
Right.
Yeah.
We all have that common denominator.
Well, I mean, yeah, the common denominator with a lot of people in recovery is past
Yeah.
trauma, dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like that's number one with the bullet, and that's what the steps are set to help you deal with.
And I have a peace about me now, even through the chaos and all of the even through the darkness, even at work, I'll always, I'm able now to find that calmness in the center of the storm.
Right.
Yeah, man.
And that's because of God. you
Right.
know?
And he always has mints for me.
And
Well,
James
there we
always
go.
lets me have mints.
Mints.
There we go. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
dude.
Wasn't that bad, right?
Well, coming downtown Dallas is kind of a trigger
Coming
for
downtown
me.
Dallas
Yeah.
was a trigger, but you know,
all good.
I mean, you made it through there.
But I
and
made it.
And
Yeah, dude.
And a
we
meeting.
appreciate it. Right. And a meeting, dude. There you go.
and we'll make sure you actually call Beth when you get home, so we can make sure you made it out
Oh,
of
yes.
Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We'll be watching you until you get out out of Dallas, and then we're like,
That's right.
okay, he's good. But I appreciate you coming
Yes, sir.
on.
Thanks for having me.
And then thanks for sitting in.
Of course.
Thanks,
absolutely.
Beth.
My pleasure.
And then Chad, not so much.
What's your name?
Huh?
What was your name?
Hey, what's up, bro?
you're that reverb guy.
When did you show up?
You're that
dude?
reverb guy.
Good to
that
see
just
you,
does
bro.
nothing.
Hey, good to see you,
You
brother.
too, man.
Good to see
Keep
you.
coming back.
It works. It works if you work it, Chad. It works. All right. Well, be sure like, subscribe, all that stuff. We have Dr. Lee coming on next
Yes.
week, right?
Yes.
And he is a rad dude.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Right? He's
Yeah.
legit.
Yeah, dude.
He's
Very-
lit.
He's a storyteller.
He's
Yeah.
a tight.
He's a
tight.
storyteller.
All right. Well,
Everybody's from Paris, dude. I swear to God, dude. Paris,
Well-
France.
Parasite.
Exactly.
Parasite.
dude. Well, I am looking forward to that. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, comment. And remember, kids, there is no magic pill for sobriety, because if there was, we would all take too many.